Hi guys, it's Leandra. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R Tolkien. Now, for those of you who just genuinely don't know what The Lord of the Rings is about, The Lord of the Rings is a high fantasy series or trilogy written by J.R.R Tolkien. It is about a hobbit called Frodo who basically has to take upon himself the One Ring. Now, this One Ring is very evil. It was created by the evil Lord Sauron on Middle-earth. Middle-earth is the name of the world that they live in, and Frodo basically has to take this ring upon himself and travel across Middle-earth to the Mount Doom with his friends and other people that he meets on the way to destroy it. This ring provides great temptation and great evil, and also kind of puts a lot of burden on the person who's carrying it. If you haven't watched the movies, if you haven't read the books, what are you doing? I mean, honestly, like at this point, you really should watch the movies. At least watch the movies. The things that I will be talking about, I don't think will provide spoilers for people who have watched the movies. If you've watched the movies, didn't read the books, but you still want to watch, that's totally fine. Let's jump right into the review. I actually read it in two parts because the book itself is actually split into two books itself. The first book, The Ring Sets Out, is the first 10 chapters, and then The Ring Goes South is the second book, and it also consists of about 10 chapters. I read the first book in about a week. It was very interesting. I have been a big fan of the series since I watched them when I was young. I've really loved them. They are probably one of my favorite movies ever. I mean, I don't really need to say anything else. They are amazing. I had also read this book when I was about 12 years old, and I am happy to say that I liked it so much more than when I was 12 years old. I definitely didn't. I didn't like it when I was 12 years old, and I really liked it now. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I have to say that once you sort of scrape off that layer of, oh my goodness, these words are so chunky and this is such a big book, what comes out underneath it is a brilliant masterpiece. Because I'm a huge sucker for the movies, I had to take the 1 star off just because the movies just did a better job at portraying this book. Before I even get into any of my opinions other than what I just said, I would really like to just make a disclaimer. I know this series is probably one of the most popular book series in the entire history of books. I know that there will probably be people watching who are a big fan of the series, and I don't want to offend anyone. Some people might be sensitive to me saying like, oh, the movies are better, but these are my opinions. I am super happy for people who enjoy the books better than the movies. I really am. If there is something that you disagree with, please leave a comment down below. Respect my opinion and don't hate me. Thank you. I really like this book. I definitely think that the movie's much better, but that is just a personal opinion of mine, and it might be because I watched the movies before I read the books. Who knows? Now, in this first, book of The Fellowship of the Ring, I don't really understand who Tom was supposed to be. You know, that guy who they meet in the forest? This might actually be one of the only things that people who've only read the movies might not understand, but there is a specific character that they meet in the forest who helps them along the way. I feel like he didn't really have that much of a purpose. He was kind of weird. I understand that he was supposed to add to the folklore and history and sort of just complexity of the history of Middle-earth, but I just found it kind of falling a bit flat. I thought he was really weird. I didn't like him that much, and that is probably also a reason why I took just that 1 star off. So the thing is that this book was just really tedious. I got kind of sick of, Tolkien describing what the landscape looked like at exactly what position the trees were. It was north, south, east, west. I feel like that was just really, really tedious for me, and I have a very, very short attention span, and so I got really bored during those parts of the book. What I absolutely loved, though, was the Shire. I do think that the book itself did a better job at describing the Shire than the movies did. It was absolutely amazing. It was so sweet. I really do wish that the movies would have maybe gone into a bit more detail, but I did buy the extended version of the movie, and I will be watching it. I also feel like, on the other hand, the movie kind of did a better job at portraying certain parts of the Shire. I really liked seeing Sam and that girl dancing together, and it was a bit more comedic, which I really appreciate. Gandalf and Merry and Pippin, they're just a bit more funny in the movie, which I kind of like a bit more. What did kind of surprise me, and I kind of should have remembered this from reading it the first time, was that there was no specific point of view from Gandalf. One of my favorite parts of the movie is, of course, Gandalf and him going to Isengard, and then being captured and escaping. Gandalf is probably one of the most badass characters of the whole series. In fact, he is the most badass character, and I really just kind of missed that. Gandalf does actually describe what happened to him when they get to Rivendell at the council. But that just isn't enough for me, in my opinion. I would have really liked to see an actual POV from Gandalf, but I won't be expecting that in the following books. Then I can sort of mentally prepare myself for that, but that is something that I also feel like the movie did a bit better. I mean, who doesn't love Gandalf? Come on. Now we get into the second part of the book, that is The Ring Goes South. Sort of sadly, I thought that I would enjoy that part of the book a bit more than the first part, but I enjoyed it equally. It might actually have been a tiny bit more tedious than the first part. It was also just like a lot of descriptions. It was really chunky, it was really heavy. It took a while for me to get through it. The second part of the book probably took me about 2 weeks, actually. My head just hurt a lot when I was reading it. I did really love it though. This is something that I have to say. Just because I thought that parts of the book were chunky or parts of the book were a bit lengthy, that does not mean that I don't appreciate the fucking masterpiece that J.R.R Tolkien wrote. It is an amazing book. You have to take this book for what it is, and that is not having a fast plot. What really makes this book special is the richness in history and folklore and songs and poems and stories and characters. I really just wish that the characters would have had more dialogue, because when the characters did speak, I devoured every individual word. Tolkien just gives the characters animation, like life. What they say, what they do, their manner, their speech is just so well tailored. Like each character is individually crafted and is so unique and has its own spirit, and that is just something that I really loved in this book. But again, my short attention span can only really last so long, and so I've come to the conclusion that the Lord of the Rings trilogy is a book series that one should read in short, small sections, interspacing them with trashy YA books or something like that. It was quite hard for me to get through. Just because I didn't enjoy my reading time that much, it doesn't mean that I didn't love the book. I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think that I would read like the second part of the book right after the first part, because I wanted to do that in order to finish it, which was kind of a mistake on my part. I will definitely read the second and third book, but I did really love it. I really loved it. I am really excited to rewatch the movies. Maybe one of the things that I will do differently is I will actually get a physical hard copy of this book. I read it on my Kindle because I thought that that would be easier, because I read faster on my Kindle and because it was a really long, chunky book. But I actually think that in retrospect, it would have been better for me to buy a physical copy, because I would have really liked to see the maps a bit more. I think I would have enjoyed the sort of descriptions a lot more if I actually had a map to sort of compare it to, because then I feel like I could have been more immersed in the landscaping, if that makes sense. Please let me know whether you liked or disliked the book, whether you've read it, whether you agreed or disagreed with things that I said. I would really like to hear your thoughts. We can discuss this book. I would also like to hear from people who don't generally read YA books, who maybe are more in the high fantasy end, and I'd also really like to hear from people who are more into YA books, who then took upon themselves The Lord of the Rings and how they feel about it as well. Just like discuss with me. I really want to just hear your thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!